the story of me joining Innovo is quite interesting. So after being recommended to Innovo, Tomek reached out to me on LinkedIn. I've heard that you are interested in working at Innovo. Let's have a chat. And it was like Thursday, 6 p.m. already, and I just opened my LinkedIn and I saw this message like from a minute ago. So I responded immediately, and Tomek said, "Okay, give me your phone number. I need to call you." And after 5 minutes after his first message, we were on the phone, and he asked me, "Okay, let's meet in person. When can we do this?" And I told him, maybe later this week, maybe next week. And he told, "Can you meet in 30 minutes?" And I looked at my watch. Okay, it's 6 p.m. I finished my tasks. I can leave office earlier. I can be at your office in half an hour. And 1 hour after he messaged me on LinkedIn, we were talking in person. And
You are an analyst at Innovo VC, which is an investing firm that is currently on its third fund with 100 million fund size. You're also the youngest VC in your team. Jędrzej, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Let's go back to the start of your journey. What was your first real exposure to venture capital? Was it when you were a VP of investments at your college or your consulting firm at Kearney? Or maybe something else?
Okay, so maybe just to give you a little bit more context, I'm from Poland and my background was in economics. I did my bachelor's in quantitative economics, and in my social bubble, everyone was talking about going to consulting, going to investment banking, and VC was my first exposure, I believe, is while listening to podcasts. So I've been interested in technology or generally speaking innovations for quite a time already, and I've just encountered VC mentioned in one podcast. It was like during my college or even before, and that's how I learned that there is such thing as VC. But it wasn't my professional choice at the beginning. So during my university, I did internship at PwC in audit and worked at different places. But it was only after 2 years after graduation that I decided to look more in details into this industry, and then I got really interested in this.
And I know that Europe, since Europe is not as profit driven, venture capital did not really start out there. But right now, the fund sizes or the fund returns for Europe and also the US is like the same. So you guys might be, LPs could be investing into the fund and they would actually provide 5 to 6x value for that VC fund for their investments. So right now, the Europe industry for VC is really catching up fast. And yeah, it's amazing that, you kind of started at your college journey and you've been an avid listener of podcasts, which is a great way to just let your brain consume information and then process that. And now you're a VC. So was there a light bulb moment for you that really made you want to jump into VC, or was it actually a really long journey?
I would say it was quite a journey. I did different internships during my undergrad studies. So I was audit intern in PwC or business strategy intern in Accenture, then worked for some data science consultancy. And my first like long-term job after graduation was working at Kearney in consulting. I spent 2 years there, And after some time, I discovered that consulting maybe not the thing I would like to do for the rest of my life. And I started to explore different opportunities. And I considered three industries. It's very popular when you leave consulting to go into investment banking, private equity, and venture capital. Maybe with the first two being the most popular. And as I started exploring different paths, speaking to people who work in these industries, I discovered that IB and PE is not the path for me in terms of mindset, scope of the job you are doing. It's more similar to consulting, and VC is totally different thing. And some people may think, okay, private equity is investing and venture capital is investing, so these two are kind of similar. And the only difference is the stage you invest at. And I wouldn't agree, and I would say those are completely two different worlds. So VC is much more entrepreneurial. It's investing at early stage. So you are meeting bunch of young geniuses going in t-shirts and being tech geniuses. So those two words are completely different. And very quickly, I realized that IB and PE are not for me. And as I started exploring VC world slash startup world more, I discovered that this is something I would love to do deep dive into. And at one point, I decided, okay, I'm going into VC, and I started looking for a job actively.
Yeah, it sounds like the little exposures that you had from Accenture, from PwC, from Kearney, that really just like led up to that long journey of you jumping into VC. And you know, you obviously did like a bunch of research yourself. You listened to a bunch more podcasts, I bet, about like, hey, what should I pick? Like, am I actually a right fit for private equity? The exits of consulting, investment banking, venture capital. What am I? And you did that deep dive analysis and you told yourself, okay, venture capital is the one. So VC might not be the right thing for everyone. Who is VC not for? What qualities that you have should not be for VC?
I would say that VC is for self-driven people. So PE, IB consulting is much more structured in environment. You've got partners or MDs telling you what to do. You need to be really persistent. You need to be ready to long work hours. But this is very structured environment. While VC is on the opposite side of spectrum. So it's completely unstructured, and it works more like there are 15 separate individuals working in VC fund, but they do not collaborate that much on daily basis. So if I recall some memories from consulting times, we tended to work in single room for 12, 15 hours and working together on some very specific problem. While in VC, there is a lot less teamwork. So you have to be really self-driven to be able to work completely on yourself. uh, then I would say you need to be you have to have this entrepreneurial mindset. So, yes, that's investing, but you meet a lot of founders. You have to quickly come up with your own initiatives to organize events, to collaborate with startups, with other investors from different funds. So I would say that these qualities are the most important. And yes, it's also intense job, but I would say that not that intense as IB and PE, as you have to deliver results in 5 to 7 years horizon, not 2 or 3 weeks horizon. So that's also a little bit different, but yeah, it's still challenging and intense job.
Yeah, like Youngji said, it could be tons and tons of working by yourself. And you have the freedom in VC to choose what you're working at. You could be doing a bunch of different things. Some VCs, maybe smaller VCs, they're very unstructured. So you can come into it and you're like, hey, I want some structure here. Then, you may not be the best fit, but you have to be a very, very driven individual who can do independent work. So, Youngjae, could you talk about maybe what a day in the life of a VC is? You wake up and what happens?
Mm. Actually, the best part of VC job is there is not a typical day. But having said that, I can say what my usual week looks like. So I meet bunch of founders doing like 5, 6, sometimes 7, 8 calls a week with founders. Then I need to do deep dives at the most promising startups. So this is the one part relating to investing, and I would say it consumes 80 to 90 part of my time, and the other 10 to 20% is related to ad hoc support for portfolio companies. And there's also a bunch of other things like organizing some events or doing internal operational tasks, which is very like little share of my time. So most of the time it's investing related tasks, speaking to founders, analyzing decks, doing deep dives on some specific industries and just trying to understand in depth whether such idea is worth investing in or not. And once uh, I and some more senior colleague decide that this particular startup is really interesting and we want to invest in it, we do additional meeting with founders, and then we prepare memo for our internal team and do investment committee meeting where we discuss in depth whether this is really exciting opportunity and decide whether we move forward and then proceed with all formalities.
Yeah, and you're doing tons and tons and tons of analysis. You're making sure that you meet with founders to prove that that analysis is right. You want to have that confirmation, but most of it is you want to make sure you understand that that is the right company you invest in. And on this topic, what is the three most important factors that you look for in a VC deal?
Okay, so one disclaimer, it differs a lot between funds depending on what stage they are investing at. We are early stage VC, so we invest at pre-seed or seed stage, sometimes just at idea stage, sometimes at MVP stage, sometimes some revenues up to few $1 million. So at early stage, the number one thing is the team. And some people say that the team is as good as the strongest skill of the strongest person of this team. And I agree 100%. So we are looking for some exceptional capabilities of founders that can be used to build a large scale business around. So the first thing is the team, and there is no single recipe here. So sometimes we invest in experienced entrepreneurs who are doing their third business, sometimes in super smart driven 20-year-olds, fresh graduates who are geniuses in some specific area, sometimes in industry veterans who've never been involved in startups before but have this in-depth understanding of a specific industry. So there is no golden recipe here, but we are just looking for some signals that this team has exceptional capabilities. And this is the first and only thing that matters at early stage, I would say. There are some additional factors like product or market. So, of course, when you are VC fund, you are looking for 100x returns. So you want to invest in company that can turn into $1 billion business. So if it's company working at some niche market, which total value is $300 million, of course, it's not gonna be $1 billion business. But it's rather just to have a check that market is large enough. And having said that, the team is still the number one thing because founders can pivot, great founders can figure out a way to build a big business. So that's why we focus on team.
And I've heard that even founders in Y Combinator, they pivoted like 20 something times before they actually got to, a product for their demo day. And that's why, like Youngjay said, the founders is the most important, if not the only thing that you look for in startups. And most of the time, like Youngjay said, sometimes like, VC might invest in a third time founder because they have a lot more experience. They've been through it and they've got like a higher chance of success. But it's really based on a bunch of signals that makes the founders and co-founders, if there's more members, memorable and something that is going to be a huge, huge market that will become $1 billion company someday. So let's switch gears for a moment. For all the aspiring VCs listening to this, talk a bit about the key reasons you personally landed your analyst role at InnoVC. If I were to guess, did you meet Michal when you were at Kearney and then you bonded over your background in consulting and then just learned about this opportunity?
So the funny thing is, Michal, the partner I work very closely with, has also consulting background. So he used to work at McKinsey, but it wasn't this way. So actually, I first met with Tomek, who has IB/PE background, but we didn't match over background. So I just used my network to connect with different VCs, and the story of me joining Innovo is quite interesting. So after being recommended to Innovo, Tomek reached out to me on LinkedIn. Hey, I've heard that you are interested in working at Innovo. Let's have a chat. And it was like Thursday, 6 p.m. already, and I just opened my LinkedIn and I saw this message like from a minute ago. So I responded immediately, and Tomek said, "Okay, give me your phone number. I need to call you." And after 5 minutes after his first message, we were on the phone, and he asked me, "Okay, let's meet in person. When can we do this?" And I told him, maybe later this week, maybe next week. And he told, can you meet in 30 minutes? And I looked at my watch. Okay, it's 6 p.m. I finish my tasks. I can leave office earlier. I can be at your office in half an hour. And 1 hour after he messaged me on LinkedIn, we were talking in person. And I believe it was quite good meeting. And of course, there were all the next steps in the process, meeting with other partners, doing cases, doing 1 day trial. But I believe that this speed and chemistry are key for landing the job.
Yeah. That's like the most amazing story that I've heard. That just shows how, high agency Miho really is. And when, you get DM'd like a message on LinkedIn through your amazing network, and that's the network effect that, our viewers should definitely build up. When you get DM'd that message, you're like, oh, I'm gonna be done with a day of work. I'm gonna be a little tired, but you know what? I'm gonna do this. Like, I'm gonna do this within an hour. And what this really proves is that even without the preparation, like, even without like a bunch of time to prepare, you crushed it. Like, you crushed that meeting, and that's what really matters. And that shows like how well your brain really works at, adapting to situations that, people normally just freeze in. And that's why, you became a VC right now.
Yes, you miss 100% of shots you don't take. So if there is a opportunity, you just have to do this.
Yeah, there it is. So, what is it like to have a cool VC mentor like Miho who will guide you into learning how to invest in the right companies? If someone has to choose between, two VC firm offers, one where they have to, have a close mentor, that means one person will guide them deeply and consistently, or two, where everyone mentors them. This means that they'll get advice from many people, but it may be less personal. What is the major differences that it will make for someone who is new to VC?
It works different at large scale funds and small scale funds. So the largest global VCs like A16Z or Sequoia, they are more structured. They have tens or hundreds people working in deal teams. So the environment there is structured. While in smaller VCs like Innovo, there is 8 people in deal team. So in small scale VCs, it is extremely important to have a person that can guide you and mentor you because it's not structured environment. And I believe that having a single mentor is way better as you can bond and connect and share all your personal experiences and thoughts. And I would advise to really take your time, do ref checks on the person you are going to work with, as I believe it's the most important thing that later after you land your job is gonna decide whether you're gonna succeed in it or not. And I am lucky to work with Michał, so I think it's one of the strongest person I've ever worked with.
Yeah, I'm glad that you could work with someone who you really admire and respect, and someone who you can just deeply learn the entire foundation of VC from. The guy, who has a bunch of VC insights. Like, he has that investor eye to choose startups. And when you learn through a mentor like that, you really develop really, really fast. And right now, you are in a great, great path when transitioning from consulting, because he did the same exact thing. So he went from consulting um all the way to a VC, just like you. And when people have similar experiences, that transition can be taught very, very easily because you guys have faced the same stuff. And now all a person has to do is just mentor their next successor of the VC. And once that happens, you guys both have an amazing partner that you can rely on. So, looking ahead, what trends in venture capital are you most excited about right now? At Innovo, you focus mainly on young founders in their 20s, B2B and B2B2C tech companies. Talk a bit about what is being overlooked in the market right now.
Okay, so I will cover two things. First of all the things I'm excited about. Uh, I believe there are very hyped things, and all of VCs are really into them. So first thing is real world application of AI. So one year ago, there was a period where people were laughing at products using AI, LLMs, saying, oh, it's just GPT wrapper, it's nothing special. LLMs and foundational models are the future. While nowadays, I think the mindset shifted. So as there are a lot of open source models on the rise. People generally tend to think that technology is gonna commoditize, and the real defensibility is in product and distribution. So I'm looking at the application layer of AI, and I believe this is the area there the most of the value capture will happen. Other thing I'm also excited about is consumer robotics. So I believe it's gonna be huge in 2 to 5 years, and more people will have their personal general purpose robots. Mm, and not that much in Europe, but I see this in the US that dual use or manufacturing and space technologies are really on the rise right now. As for example, Anduril just opened their first plant, large scale plant or Ohio, or Boom just did first supersonic flight operated by private company. And I believe that we'll see much more cases like this in the future. So that are areas that are very hyped right now, and all VCs are talking about. And some overlooked things, I believe, is digitalization of legacy processes in pen and paper industries. And I believe that it's not really hyped, but there is still a lot of job to be done, and you can create a lot of value and bunch of next unicorns here.
Yeah, and many of the times people think, that is just the way it is for many, many traditional systems. And that's where Yangtze and VC is looking at those unsexy industries. For example, unless you have like founders that you trust tell you about it, or even if you actually have worked in the industry, and stuff like that is the perfect thing to turn into an $1 billion company when you automate everything like that. So, um, I can see the potential. Like, I'm just thinking right now, I'm like, oh my gosh, if we really just like automate everything that is very traditional and can be automized, like distribution systems, it would be crazy. Like, imagine how much faster and efficient the world would change. I know you talked a bit about how to break into VC. For our viewers who needs an actionable plan to implement right away, what would be your recommended 6-month plan to fully break into VC?
Okay, I can talk about how does it look like in Europe, as I'm sure how it is. It may work a little bit different in the US, but let's focus on my experience. VC is very different in terms of hiring than the industries I've mentioned before, like consulting or investment banking, as there are companies in VC, in IB consulting that hire tens of graduates each year, while in VC, it's usually one or two hires per year. So it's very different and it's tough to land a job in VC. And I'm glad that you are covering this topic in your podcast, by the way. Most of the funds, they do not publish job offers publicly. So it's very tough as you don't see what VC is currently hiring. So what I would recommend is, first of all, look for VC funds that just announced raising next fund. So of course, VC is very cyclical industry. So you raise fund, then you invest, then you do follow-ons, and then you divest after some period of time. So just after raising a fund, it could be the best time to reach out to VC fund. And you can do a bunch of stuff. First of all, you can just look for this kind of VCs and drop cold messages to partners and be very thoughtful about it. Not just DM them saying, I would like to work at VC. Do you have any job places? But try to be really specific and show that you can provide value. So let's think of an example. Let's say I'm a person from Germany who graduated from university in the UK and I am looking for VC job in London. Go through the list of VC funds in the UK and look for a fund that do not have any German person in the team. And then say to one of GPs, hey, I've seen that you don't have any person from Germany and other funds X, Y, they do have person. I can help you. I can cover German market for you and help you to build better visibility over this part of Europe. That's one example. Just what I mean in general, be very thoughtful when reaching out to VCs. But that's just the one thing. It's just called outreach. But then the key is act like you are already VC investor. So meet with funders, build your personal deal flow, build database of startups and funders that you think are really interesting. And then when you meet with VC investors, hopefully, let's say you landed your first meeting, go there prepared and show them, okay, this is list of 50 startups I would invest in, and I think they fit your investment thesis because X and Y. And that shows that you can provide value from day one. And let's say the meeting went well, you really impressed partners. Think of any person from your network that can recommend you. So after the meeting, let's say I am partner at Innovo Fund and 6 people I really trust text me, hey, I've heard that you met with John. He is a great person. He would be great value added to your team. Then naturally, I think, wow, this person is amazing. I have to hire him or her. So that's also one thing you can do. So what I mean in general is be very thoughtful, act as if you are investor, reach out to funders, talk to them. Probably some of them can do intros for you to their investors. So be sure that you can have warm intros to as many VC funds as possible. Show them that you can provide value from day one, and also statistics. you have to reach out to a bunch of VC funds just to have higher chance that you can land a job. So I covered how it looks like in Poland or Central and Eastern Europe, but in Germany or the UK or France, there are some larger funds who have graduate programs and they publish job offers publicly. Go through the list, apply for them, and just put your effort into landing this job.
Yeah. And what you mentioned, that entire plan, I think that's really, really applicable for the US, especially. Because I remember, a bunch of analysts and associates and even partners that I know, and they really talk about a similar process of where you need to find the unique way, the into VC, whether it's, through, like you said, looking through your network, looking at which VC funds have recently fundraised, raised their capital, so then they could hire on you as their first analyst. But yeah, you need to look for that unique way in, and the best way to do that is through the network that you build, and that's how Youngjit kind of did it through consulting, because him and Michal had a similarity at which he tapped into, and that was his in to VC. And the rest of the plan, which is applied to a bunch of VC firms, you gotta be really, really thoughtful on what you write. And like Young Jay said, be helpful on day one. And how do you do that? You have to give that list of 50 startups that is gonna work out, or that is kind of similar, or maybe even it could be a startup that the partners are thinking about right now. Because if they're thinking about that startup right now, dude, you are so on the top of their mind and on the top of the list to hire. Because they're like, okay, so it means that this guy or this kid, if you just got out of university, knows and has that investor eye already. So if, like Young Jay said, 80% of his work is just pitching, listening to pitches, meeting with founders, and analyzing startups. If 80% of that is about the investor eye, the analysis, and you already have it, well, I mean, why wouldn't they choose you? So this plan, if you really just go through with it, I feel like there's no way, after definitely applying to a bunch of specific industries that you truly enjoy, that the VC firms are in, if you apply and follow this exact process that Young Jay has provided, I believe you would definitely land a VC job.
If you don't land a VC job offer, it's not the end of the world. And I believe that VC can be pretty tough for entry level job. So I'm not sure if I would recommend as your first job. So you can get some experience in startup, in tech, and then later go into VC, just like I did it. So I believe that it's really helpful if you get some expertise before. And I don't mean any specific one, just try yourself in another role and it will help you a lot in the future. And VC is a very cyclical industry, so VCs raise funds, invest them, then there is a period where they are again working on fundraising, so you can just wait for your next opportunity. So don't give up and be persistent, and it's great to have some other experience before so you can add more value as an investor.
Yeah. And you 100% need, like, at least like VC related experience. What I mean by that is obviously, Young Jae has been a founder. He's been at the consulting side. So he's really like done the advising of companies, the analysis of companies. And there's tons and tons of opportunities in the ways that, how specialists can go right into VC. And if, let's say, you worked in the medical field for like 20 years or maybe even 10 years, and you're just like so specialized in that thing, and then the VCs are like, oh, let's just like open a branch for healthcare or something like that, that is your way in. And it could be something else too, because there's many, many different roles in VC. Right now, I've heard that you guys are currently hiring for VC talent. Could you talk a bit about uh, who you guys are looking for?
That's right. We are looking for analysts in Warsaw, Baltics, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, or London. So maybe just to give you context, Innovo invests in founders from Central and Eastern Europe globally. So Polish guys in San Francisco, Lithuanians in London, or just people from the region who are here. And we are looking for analysts or associates who can help us build coverage of other markets I've just mentioned. So we as Innovo, we have pretty good overview of Polish market, and we want to extend this coverage even more to other countries of Central and Eastern Europe. So if you are a person from the region and you are passionate about VC, I highly encourage you to go to our LinkedIn page, find job posting and apply.
Yeah, and I'll definitely link all of that below. So right now, I've heard that the VC model is actually kind of evolving. So there are lots of VCs that are still the traditional model, but it's evolving very fast. So then they can differentiate themselves from different VC firms. And one of the things that you guys also offer to your portfolio founders is you guys help them with hiring talent. Could you talk about the different maybe roles uh, inside your VC firm?
At Innovo and basically every VC fund, you have deal team, people who make investments, and then you have back office team. So finance professionals, operational roles, or as in our case, head of talent. So VC firms like Innovo, we don't have much hiring needs. So probably we open one recruitment process a year for our internal purposes. But we help our portfolio companies with hiring. It's extremely important, especially at early stage startups, to hire right people. And the competition for exceptional talent is really intense. So one way we as investor can provide value to our portfolio companies is to help them get the right people on board. And I believe that there are not that many ways you can help as VC investor. So probably funders know more about their business than we will ever do. So we are looking for some smart ways we can bring value to them, and help them in hiring is one of the crucial things in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why, Innovo really cares about their portfolio companies. And many smaller VC firms, they don't have that. Like most of it is just like the traditional model of partners and juniors, VCs. But anything else, it's like the founders have to do it themselves, which is good because, the founders have to learn how to be lean. They have to learn how to use their resources the best way possible. And they're the founders. They're going to be in charge of everything. So that is actually, you know, one of the best ways for founders to learn. But hiring talent, that's like something that you develop over a decade long of experience. And that's something that founders are not necessarily, very experienced in. And that's where Innovo VC comes in to help their portfolio companies. So, I mean, if you want to reach out to Innovo VC, you want them to invest in you, definitely reach out to Young Jay.
Yeah, that's true. And also, I think that many funders can get pissed off if investor is telling them what to do, how to run their business. We don't do that. We only help them if it's needed and where it's needed. And I believe that bringing talent on board of your startup is extremely helpful. We've got a great person doing this, Shimon. He's been responsible for talent at three unicorns. So he's been there. He saw how to build great organization. So I believe that's providing a lot of values to founders.
Yeah. And the value that VCs can provide is sometimes just, let startups do the thing they are best at and helping them on what they're not best at. And that is talent. So right now, let's do a few rapid fire questions to wrap up. One word or one sentence. Ready?
Yes.
What is the best book you've read recently?
Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Awesome. If you could invest in any startup from the past, which one would it be?
PayPal.
Why PayPal?
Because of extremely strong network. So PayPal Mafia is extremely influential in the US, and of course, uh, except for financial returns, it gives you great network, and that's really helpful in future.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, the PayPal Mafia refers to Elon Musk and the founding members, or even like team members of PayPal, and they've all gone to do great things, great VCs, great startups, Palantir, it's amazing. What is your favorite part of working in VC?
Meeting exceptional people, much smarter than me, from whom I can learn a lot.
And you're meeting with lots of, 20-year-old, in their 20s founders. What was that experience kind of like?
For me, it's great, and I can feel that I can relate to them more. So you can learn a lot. And even if you not end up investing in this particular startup, you can just share your thoughts and get better perspective on markets, on how to approach your life, career choices. And I believe that exposing yourself to people who are smarter than you is the number one strategy which can help you build a better life, better career, and it's universal. Regardless of what you are doing, meeting and talking to people who are smarter, more capable than you is the number one winning strategy.
Yeah, it sounds like you're really humble and also a serial learner who's just like, any chance that I can learn something new, any chance that I can dive more deep into this topic, I will do it. Like, you can try to stop me, but I'm not gonna stop, and I'm gonna keep learning. And that's why you really do make a great VC. So, what is one place you wish to go backpacking to, but haven't yet?
South America, I've never been there, and I would love to go to Patagonia.
What is the main spot?
Haven't discovered this yet, so I have still to plan this thing. And usually, when I'm traveling, I'm doing backpacking, and I'm kind of spontaneous, so I don't plan everything, but just let it flow. So I will still have to decide, but I would love to go to every country on Earth. I'm just huge traveling fan.
Yeah, and that's the part of, learning as well, where you just like deal with very, very difficult situations that, requires constant adaptability, which you clearly have if you love backpacking, because you're gonna be living in motels, you're gonna be on a low cost budget. You're like, what am I gonna do for, today? Am I just gonna walk the entire way? Maybe like walk for hours, or am I gonna just hop onto a bus? So you're making constantly difficult decisions at all times when you're backpacking. And if you like that, dude, I know you are insanely good at
Yeah,
adapting.
you can expose yourself to challenging conditions, and it's a great way to learn more about yourself, uh, get more comfort, whatever you are doing in your life, and just spend quality time with yourself. So that's why I love doing it.
Yeah, and I, backpacking is like something that you really do enjoy when you're younger. Because, I've heard from my older mentors who's like, oh, I really wanted to go backpacking. And then after they went in their later years, they're like, oh, going to motels is not that fun as I thought anymore. So it's really like you have to experience it.
At time in your 20s that you can do it, because later you have to be responsible. Maybe you will have your family, maybe you will start your own business. So it's last call to get some more experience in traveling.
Jędrzej, that was amazing. So for anyone listening who wants to learn more about you or your firm, what is the best place to reach you?
You can drop a DM on LinkedIn. I will respond to it.
Awesome. I'll put his LinkedIn down in the descriptions. And out of everyone you know, who is two amazing VCs who transitioned into the field in the last 2 years that you would recommend as a future guest for our podcast?
I would recommend Konrad Kordowski. He joined Hummingbird in London. It's a friend of mine from university. And the other person would be Stefan Stevski, who works also at Innovo. It's my colleague.
Awesome. That sounds amazing. Thank you again, and thanks to everyone who's listening. Comment a question you want to hear from our next guest. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to press the subscribe button, like, and share it with someone who's interested in getting into venture. We'll see you next time.
It was pleasure. Thank you for having me.